Yeah.
Hmm.
Like,
Welcome to In the Know with Steph and Joe. In the Know with Steph and Joe is all about small business development. These two entrepreneurs bring real life experience, laughter, and, well, just a ton of knowledge on how to build your small business and make it thrive. After all, this is your creation. Now learn how to make it sing. In the Know with Steph and Joe airs Fridays at 3 p.m. right here on 216 The Net. Like, follow Steph's books and Restoration One of Cary, along with 216 The Net on Facebook, and subscribe to the 216 The Net YouTube channel.
Hello, Tom.
What is going on, man? I'm looking at faces. I only know your face, so I got to figure out who the rest of these people are here.
All right, here we go. Introductions. Hi, Tom. I'm Joe.
Hi, Joe.
A radio host.
hi, I'm Steph. I own Steph's bookkeeping service.
There you go. And
Hi, Steph.
I'm Rich. I'm the other owner of
Steph's bookkeeping service. There you go. Mm-hmm. And who's the man behind the curtain?
And first of all, we just want to thank you for being such a big fan of the show there, Tom.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on. Hey, if we can't have a little fun with our guests, who can we have fun with? All right.
Let's do it.
Glad to have you with us.
Who's the man behind the curtain?
Hi, Kent Jones. I'm the producer of the show.
There you go. All right. So, Tom, please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Tom Gisler. I am the president of Restoration One, the franchisor side of it. So, basically, what we refer to as home office. We're trying to support a number of franchisees across the United States, among which Joe is one. So that's how I found out about this. So Joe owns a Restoration One business, a thriving one, a successful one. And he said he produced this, or not produce, sorry, that's the man behind the curtain.
That is correct.
He hosts this show, and I was like, man, would I love to be on it and see what this is all about. So yeah, that's how we're here.
There it is. Oh, we have an audience, actually. I love that. So
say that again.
We're talking big fish today, right? Like how to sell to a big fish. How do we rope in? How do we sell? How do you skill it? How do you fry it? How do you fillet it? The big thing is, when you're bringing in that big fish, are you nervous in the beginning is my question for this start of the show. When I'm bringing in that fish, because I just went fishing for big fish, I was nervous as shit every time I brought in something big. So my question to y'all is, if you start to rope that one in, is it something that racks your nerves, that makes you feel a little leery, right?
Mm-hmm. I think your first big fish is always the one that makes you nervous and anxious, because then it really tests your processes and procedures and everything that are just in theory that you haven't actually fully executed yet. And then once that big fish comes in, then you really start to do and utilize those tools and things that you thought would work. And then you have to tweak, potentially, maybe not, but you have to tweak some of those things and get ready for the next one. But then I think by the second or third one, it's like the same.
Should be, right? It should be, right, Tom?
I mean, for me, it's always the same. You know what I mean? Like,
you're a tiny person, so
everything you're looking at, I love.
Right? Did you see my struggle yesterday at the Dollar Tree trying to get them balloons down from the ceiling?
I did.
Tom, do you find it like when you're roping in a big fish that the struggle might be real on the first one? I don't know if you can remember your first one.
For sure. I mean, I think if we're being honest, I probably suffer from a little bit of imposter syndrome, meaning there's always a little voice in the back of my head that says, "What are you doing here? None of what you say is true. You're definitely going to screw this up somehow, etc." There's that voice, and I think that a big part of overcoming the voice was not trying to drown it out, not trying to pretend that it wasn't there, but to reframe it and to realize that everyone has that same voice. Even the big fish has got doubts about themselves, doubts about the relationship. So what I've done over the course of a career is really practice appropriately highlighting the common areas where I feel like there were probably doubts. Just call them out, not ignore them, not trying to gloss over them. I think a mistake that a lot of people in that position, if they're salespeople or marketers or whoever they might be, we try and like bowl through nervousness, or we just get really grandiose in our statements because we're just trying to like do anything we can to bury what is kind of an elephant in the room. And instead, I find drawing attention to it, calling it out, making light of it, admitting to it, really diffuses the situation. So that's one part of what I would probably try and add to the conversation. The other is the concept of what a big fish is changes. So you know, like my first big fish probably wouldn't be that big a fish now. I mean, you reel one in and you get used to that size fish. That starts just being fish, and the big fish, you know, goes up and up. So it's kind of defining what is a big fish. Is it purely just the dollar, like the value size of what the deal is or what it represents, or is it the expectations of that customer make them a big fish? The complexity of servicing that account or that person makes them a big fish. And I think that changes. That's a sliding scale. What's Steph?
Yeah, what's a big fish, Rich?
Yeah, what represents a big fish for you?
In my opinion, like you said, it's probably an account that makes you nervous. You know, I think that's probably an important. It's an important defining factor of what a big fish is. How many of their products they're buying from you, and how much of a strain on your internal resources they are. You know, and on top of that is if you're trying something new that might be outside of your comfort zone. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be in scale or size, but it could just be something new. You know,
brand new.
Like you take on an account, and it could be like in our space. I think sometimes taking on a business and playing in a software that you're not necessarily comfortable with. You know, so we're having to learn their software and implement it into our process. You know, and so that can kind of, you know, that can make the, you know, the engagement a little shaky in the beginning. You know, and in the beginning you always want to deliver, you want to execute. You know, and that's and when you get a big account, all you want to do is impress right from the beginning. You know, but I think, like you said, calling out, you know, those items that do make you nervous, like where you think you may have some trouble with, and maybe bringing them to the forefront and spending more time on those, you know, kind of helps smooth over, you know, maybe some of those problems that you can foresee, you know, coming, you know, getting an account like that.
How do you guys figure out like how to like key in on those points that you are trying to tailor to that big fish, right? If you have something that makes you nervous, what are the points that you're trying to take on and actually focus on for your business, so that way you know you are not falling short on those nervous points, right?
I think making sure you're always solving their problem. That's mainly our focus. So, and part of solving their problem is, like you said, framing their problem, you know, so getting a really accurate frame of what their problem is, so you can actually create a really accurate, streamlined solution to their problem.
Understanding,
right. So you have to really be able to frame their problem. you know,
Yeah.
and that's just, you know, that's just being good at interviewing during the sales process, you know, and helping them, you know, maybe
Great
not
point.
realize what their problem is sometimes, you know.
You know,
That's super important. Yeah.
I mean, we on some of our clients that we're either doing something new in a software or doing an additional set of services, we do weekly mini meetings with them to go over and make sure we're in the right stages of understanding the software and the process and tweaking what we need to tweak. So we kind of will have more during our onboarding, we'll have a lot more conversations than I guess a normal fish that we're used to catching every day. We can just, you know, hit the ground running. We have our templated email and it works just fine. But when we're getting into additional softwares or additional services, then we have to touch point a little bit more frequently to start.
Yeah.
Kind of like that building trust.
Well, it's
stage.
also front loading the engagement. Like you front load
There
it
you go.
really, really heavy in the beginning, you know. Not only does it make you feel better, it makes them feel better, you know, to know that you're on top of your shit, you know, and that you're really kind of asking all the right questions, you know. Because I don't know, man. Like, but if you're a business owner and you're starting off with a new company and you feel like they should be asking you certain things and they're not asking you those things, like that can kind of, and they're not communicating enough, even though they should be over communicating in the beginning. I feel like that. It could be a red flag for them, you know, like, did I make the right decision? So I think front loading the engagement, you know, being over communicative. Oh, too many. Like, I don't feel like there's too many questions. Don't ask the same question over and over again, but at least ask the correct questions, you know.
I think this is really good discussion. You said something I want to try and circle back to. The idea of framing is
super
so
important.
critical, super critical. It's understanding where a problem, a challenge, where does that fit into an overall arc of a story? Where are they in their own story? I'll tell you how I relate this a little bit. So I really love, I don't know if you guys are all, I know Joe's Joe's married in a relationship, hopefully to the same person. And I don't know about
These
you guys.
two are married, Tom.
There you go. Okay. So
yeah. So yes.
So I love.
Thanks for yelling that, Joe.
Well, sorry, I didn't know if he could hear me from Texas.
But yeah, the microphones.
I wanted to make sure he could hear me from Texas.
I love being in love, and I've been married 3 times on my 3rd wife. And I'll probably, if this one blows up, I'll probably do it again foolishly. But so I kind of relate things back to the idea of dating and getting to know somebody. And I think the mistakes that can be made in that initial dating really apply in a way to what we're doing here, in that, some of us have to think farther back to some first dates, but a mistake that especially immature people will make, and maybe, I don't know, maybe especially men, I'm not sure. But there's a
man behind the curtain agrees.
There's a tendency to sit down across from a person that you're interested in and want to have a relationship with. And what you do is you start spewing facts about yourself. You just start like, let me just try and impress you. And because I don't know what's going to impress you, I'm just going to throw everything out. I'm going to exaggerate what my income is. I'm going to exaggerate what my hobbies are and how good I am at them and who I know and yada, yada. I'm giving you this shiny, bright, somewhat false version of myself. And you think, okay, that's how I'm going to make an impression, when really the smart players sit down, say very little about themselves, and instead start asking crazy amounts of questions of that other person. Because 2 things: 1, people love to talk about themselves, and 2, the more they answer those questions, the more you're able to build that into a framework where you have a better understanding of how to state who you are that hits where they are, if that makes sense, so that you're not just throwing everything at the wall. Yeah, you like cats? I love cats. I've got 10 cats. It's you're
That might be why you've been married 3 times.
exactly. Now we're dialing in on it. So it's really it's learning to ask those questions and then placing your answers in such a way that it does solve the problems that they have, or fit into their life, in doing that in an honest way. And I want to add one more thing, just sort of seed conversation. I don't fish necessarily, but I don't know how many of you guys fish where you're at, but there's this concept of if you've really got a big one on the end of your line, maybe it's even a little bigger than your line is supposed to carry, and you're not sure if it's all going to work out. There's a sense in which you just don't crank on that. You just don't keep doing this. There's a dance in which you pull them in closer, and then there may be times when you let them go and run some energy out, then you reel them back in. And I had an experience of that just very recently. We run a national accounts program with Restoration One, by which we land hopefully some big fish, and then we filter the jobs out over a region or even nationwide. And we had an opportunity with one that I was really, really excited by. And we started out asking questions, finding out, have you used our sort of services before? What went wrong? What if you could have waved your magic wand, how would that situation have gone differently? And what they're telling you is, this is how I want to be treated by a restoration contractor. So you're asking those questions that allow you to kind of modify your approach to be bespoke to them. You want them to teach you. But as they did, it really dawned on me that where we sit right now as a company, we can't be entirely successful in what they want. So what I did was I went back to the purchasing agent, and I said, I'm going to do something that you might not expect, and I'm actually going to pull myself out of contention for this round. I'm actually going to say no to you, because from what I've learned, we're not going to be able to really meet your needs 100%. And I want to do that. There's some work I've got to do on my end to be the kind of company you need. So what I'd rather do is keep the lines of communication open. And do I have your permission to come back and show you what areas that we've improved in, so that I'm in a better position next time to be a vendor for you? And the result was that they were overwhelmed with feelings of just gratitude for my being honest with them. And I really believe that's going to front load this relationship. So instead of trying to land them right now in the boat and maybe break my line and be embarrassed, I let them get away for a while, but I still left that hook in so that we can try again in a little while. So there's a part of that too, that you don't have to land everyone you hook, at least not immediately.
Does that translate into, pardon me, actually trying to grow yourself as you're roping this fish in and going, oh shit, I need a bigger net. Oh shit, I need a bigger boat. Right?
Yeah.
How often do you guys critique yourself based on the potential fish that grabs your hook? In the sense of what he's saying, right? Like if there's a fish that grabs your hook and your line goes zzz, and it's running faster than you could ever pull that sucker back in, do you then go, well, shit, I got opportunities that are bigger than me, I got to adjust?
100%. Sometimes it's a really good idea to say no to a really good account.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you know that you can't deliver on that, and the money's going to be great for the first few months, but then you start having the problems show up.
It's going to break the line, and eventually you're not going to have anything.
But it also can impact you getting your next big fish, because you never know who they know. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't want to deliver a bad service.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Love that point.
So,
yeah.
Or to what degree that big fish is going to be such a distraction in your boat that you end up losing a bunch of medium-sized fish.
Exactly. You can't deliver on your current client base. You know what I mean?
And if we really want to dive into this metaphor, it's going to take you 24 hours to carve up this fish. You're never going to get a dime out of this fish for another 12 months. And then it's going to take you forever to recoup, Yes, you're gonna. God, Carrie and I went through this in January, late December, when everything thawed and the whole world burst, all the pipes started flowing. Carrie and I went through the same thing, and we roped in a big fish. Oh, that big fish was great, right? But it took up a lot of our resources. Right. It filled our boat.
Yeah, you can't take on any new business. You can't do anything with that.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So so I know Joe's sales team because I hang out with them, so I know them.
Because we're local.
And I know Kent and how he sells, and I know how we do it. But do you guys feel that sales is something that could be taught to anybody, or do you feel like people just have that natural sales like charisma where they can
pull
command
in
the room
fish
and do that? Like, would you take a person and do you think you could train them, anybody up to do the big fish sales, or do you think you would have to tier them out and do like you handle little fish, you handle medium, and then this is my group for big?
Great point.
Because I know I've gone for sales training when I worked in my previous life in subprime lending, and it was horrific sitting through those sales meetings. I hated every second of it. So, and I guess it just wasn't something I was passionate about. So it was difficult for me to talk about it and get people excited about wanting to work with me and do this and let's get going kind of thing. So where do you guys kind of fall in that? Do you feel like people are just natural salespeople, or you think you could train anybody?
I have definite opinions on this.
Yeah. Keep them brief. Let's keep them brief.
Yeah. I think that there are qualities that make people naturally successful at what we call sales or even marketing. But I think that they are different than we think. When you go to those sales trainings, I've been to them too, and I'm a guy that considers myself more or less a natural salesperson. I enjoy doing it. I'm able to frame the nervousness that I have going into some of these situations as excitement. So I'm able to kind of trick my brain into feeling really switching anxiety to an excitement. So that's something, and I've learned to do that.
So yeah, Tom, just to interrupt you for a second, the actual definition of your body chemistry for nervousness versus excitement is the exact same as far as chemical reaction in your body. The only difference between nervousness and excitement is your mental portrayal of your feelings. So the feelings are actually exactly the same for nervousness and excitement. It's only the way you portray them. Those feelings.
I think that's why I really clued in on that word framing. I think we can do that a lot. We can do that, oh my God, man, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Don't do that.
But it's, you can just tell yourself internally, man, I am so excited to get in there. I can't wait to get in there. And it really does work. At least it works for me. There's maybe some people, but my larger point is that the qualities you would look for in someone that you want to train aren't necessarily slick, good looking, they aren't this sort of kind of greasy sales qualities that sometimes the training, like what would irritate me about the training is it was about, well, how do you overcome objections? How do you keep them from saying no? How do you turn a no into a yes? And it felt very manipulative. It felt very almost rapey in a way. You know what I'm saying? It was like,
yeah, boy,
yeah,
I completely agree.
It didn't seem pleasing. To me, it would ruin the end result of even winning the account, because I felt like, man, I really got one over on them, by doing that. And that's not how I wanted to feel. So I think the qualities of the people that have worked for me that have been the most successful, really there's two of them. One is an innate sense of curiosity. You can't teach curiosity. You're either a person who wonders how something works or what's behind that door or what's going on in that building, or you're not. Some people genuinely like, hey man, I wonder what's going on in that building. And it never occurred to me. I drive past it every day. It's just background noise. For me, I'm constantly wondering, what things are. How did that guy get in that position? How did, what qualifies you for that? So curiosity is one. And then I think there is a sense that you have to be at least comfortable with the idea of tenacity. This sense that I'm able to reframe someone's objection. And by that, I don't mean trying to turn them or trick them into saying yes when they really mean no, but to be able to take a no and say, an early way in which I did that is I would get really charged up when I would cold call someone and they were super rude to me. And that can happen, especially in cold calling situations. And most of the other people that were my coworkers would come out and they would, some people would like cry. Other people would be super pissed. Other people would be super dejected. And I would be energized. And people would be like, why do you like that? And I would be, number one, if they're that mean to me, they're that mean to everybody. And that means that there's a level playing field. That means if I can get past that, then I'm going to be ahead of the pack because I'll be able to overcome this guy's sort of inherent assholeness, right? So that's
accepted. Yeah.
So there's a challenge accepted part of it. And then there's a mental gymnastics where you go, to what degree was this person right in being irritated? And by that, I mean, I have to accept in a cold call situation that they weren't expecting me, that I have no earthly idea how stressful a day I walked in on, just either generally or for that person. They don't have any understanding of what my selling points are or what benefit I might bring. So to them, I'm just another person interrupting their work. And so to what degree can I be humble about that, understanding about that, and retry the next time that I walk in. And so I just began building a skill set around how to disarm those sort of situations. And some of those things, and I share them far and wide. Most people don't take me up on trying to implement them, but I just started a group of habits that I found really disarm. The next time you walk in, you go, hey, I'm fully aware that you're an irritable dickhead, and I'm fully aware that I interrupted your day. Is there any way I can get 35 seconds out of you without you yelling at me? And it would just completely disarm them.
That before, actually.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
you
just call them out. You're like, hey.
Yeah.
You'll find that on page 35 of Tom's How to Win Friends and Influence People book that he wrote.
Right.
Listen, he's used that on me, for instance.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, and the other thing that I would do is when I want to land a big fish, or I'm going in a big fish, in this case can be just what makes them a big fish is there are a ton of unknowns. Instead of trying to get an appointment with someone that was around, hey, I'm going to sell to you. This is going to be a sales appointment. I would, and it's important to know this is genuine. So this is not a trick. I think believing this is a trick or a manipulation really changes it in some fundamental way. But instead to contact someone either by phone, email, even dropping in and say, here's what I want to do. I want to buy you lunch or dinner, or I want to get you out of this environment somehow where it's just you and I, but I want to explain to you the purpose of it. The purpose is I want you to help me to understand how to approach your marketplace. So I'm going to buy you dinner. We're going to go out to drinks. We're going to spend an evening together. It's all on me. And by the way, you owe me nothing at the end of this, because what I'm doing is buying your time and expertise. I need you to teach me how to sell in this marketplace. And so let's say I'm going to in our business, it's often around property, of course. So there's a big Class A building, a 60-story building in downtown or something crazy. And I want to get that property manager, instead of going, hey, I want your business and I want to interrupt whatever vendor you have, and I want to be that vendor of choice. Instead, I say, I want to take you out to a nice place, spend an hour or two with you, and I just want to pepper you with questions about what people in your position care about, so that when I sell to others in your position, I'll be ahead. Is that okay? That's such a much easier approach for that person, because now they know I could go to lunch and they're actually providing value. People want to provide value, and you're giving them the value they can provide. And by the way, they are literally going to instruct you on how to sell to them. They're going to give you the secret codes.
Does this actually create something that is?
No, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. Well, I was going to say, does this actually create something to you guys that would be, how often have we done this, or have y'all done this, in the sense of, because I've.
So really, and that's where I was going. I like what Tom's saying. Too many times when we try to settle the big fish, we're using a line, a pole, and a bait, right? Instead of throwing a wider net, right? So what Tom is saying is, put the pole down and throw a net out there. You might just catch a fucking dolphin, right?
Right.
You could catch a whale.
You could, right?
Moby Dick.
So I think a lot of times, for especially small business owners, it's hey, I'm at SeaWorld in one of those tunnels, and the glass is so thick that the fish looks big. And that's because I'm not in the tank. I'm looking at the thing from the outside. Then all of a sudden you get up there inside the tank, you're like, oh, this guy wasn't that big. So I think a lot of times we focus on, I've got to cast a line, and I'm going to use my sales approach on this whale or whatever. And the whale's like, what the hell are you doing? Right. Cast that wider net, work around, ask for their help, say, hey, come get in my net with me, right? So let me get in the pool with you, kind of see how this feels and plays out.
Test the waters.
Right. But as young entrepreneurs, when I say that, young in the business, sometimes you're just so hungry. Man, if I could just get that
whale, and then this whale hooks, and you're freaking like the sturgeon I caught.
But the first thing I do is I sit with Tom and I go, hey, Tom, listen, I'm going to give you a 20% discount.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And he goes, I don't like the guy already. Right.
Yeah. This guy's shooting me discounts. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah. I start disvaluing myself right off the bat to try to win this fish.
Well, does that play to a factor? Does anybody drop their, I call that dropping your pants in a sale?
No.
I think it's the worst idea to ever.
You've never dropped your pants in a sale?
Never,
right?
never leave with that.
No.
But
I have been married 3 times.
Yeah, no.
You've lost it over 50. So you won't drop your.
I won't drop at all.
So sorry, Rich. I don't mean to say that out.
But it's just,
So,
like, my price is my price. My value is my value. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. And if you want to go with somebody else because they're $50 cheaper than me, then by all means, I wish you the best of luck. And then keep us in mind if things don't work out.
Do you still continue to build that relationship with that person because there's still that big fish?
No. I mean, I had somebody, we couldn't come to terms on something.
Because they asked you for the discount. What if they come back to you and say, I still want to use your business? I don't need the discount. I still want to use your business. You won't take the business?
Depends if I have enough room in my...
I guess if you could fit in the back, you can get in there. Go right ahead.
I don't like it. I don't like when you're trying to discount me, because I would never discount you.
You've discounted me a lot.
Nuh-uh. I've given you so many presents.
What I like about Tom's approach to this whole sales thing is you approach these people and offer a way to talk to them with no strings attached.
That's it.
And I think that is a huge thing, because people hate the pressure of sales. That's where they lead with the leave me the fuck alone attitude. But when you kind of appeal to somebody's ego, which is what you're kind of doing, right? Like, you appeal to their ego because you want to hear them talk, right? I want you to talk, and I'm not asking for a sale. I'm asking for your expertise. So you don't have to tell me yes or no at the end of the night. We just go our separate ways, right? Cool. And it's a really subliminal way. It's really kind of undercover way of asking for the sale, because you get to demonstrate your problem solving ability while they, tell you exactly what they want, So I think that's a really interesting approach to that. They get somebody's time.
Yeah, it dovetails into something you said earlier. You were like, what you really want to do is solve their problem, but here's where you get tripped up.
Right.
You'll get tripped up when their problem isn't one that you solve with. Let's say I'm selling for you as a bookkeeping. So I want to go in, and I know ultimately what I want to do is I want to do some, I want to do your books, get them ready for your CPA. Maybe I'm doing some payroll. There's a suite of services that I want to offer. And I go out to lunch and we're talking and we say, hey, but what's your biggest, what are you dealing with? What stresses you out the most? And you're hoping it's a bookkeeping problem because, oh man, I got a solution on deck for that. And they go, man, it's really finding qualified talent, man. I just can't find, I got this one position and I can't find anybody for that position. And I'm carrying the load of that. And I can't really concentrate on anything else while that's happening. So what it does is it gives you an opportunity to go then find a solution or find a partner for a solution to a problem that's going to pay you $0. But what it does is if you come back, go, hey, I've been thinking since the last time we talked a couple of weeks ago that you couldn't find anyone for this position. I know a recruiter over here, and he's slid me a few names of people that they've gotten that they don't have room for. I'm going to give you these resumes because I was just thinking about you. That means so much to someone that you're trying to solve a problem that isn't even in your wheelhouse. But to your point, it shows that I care. I'm thinking about you in a non-monetary way. I'm just thinking about what your needs are in my off time when we're not right in front of each other. And I actually can solve problems. And if we're
resourceful, right?
Be resourceful. Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, now I've got an excuse to talk to you yet again. Now we're having yet another conversation. Right. And to extend the dating scenario, you want as many of those moments as you can,
and that's literally just like dating. You're just building your relationship, right? All you're trying to do is build and grow that relationship that you can with that person, whether it be because you want their business or in some form or fashion you want to do business with them. That really is it. It's just how do I build and grow that, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So any technology that you guys use that really kind of enhances this? Tools that you use? Come on. Does anybody have like a sales process or a...
my sales process. Just watch Tommy Boy.
That's how I. It doesn't hurt here. Go across the country. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't hurt here or here, but right here.
I mean, we have like a checklist of things that I go through during the sales process to gather the information in order for me to provide a proper quote. So we have that, and then technology wise, yes, Rich does all of that kind of back end components of that. So we have softwares that will convert things. He pulls and extrapolates data into Power BI reports. So we do different things, and then we also have checklists within our own CRM softwares.
Perfect.
So yeah.
So back end question to that, because you have your systems for onboarding somebody. How does it change with a big fish?
For me, it's the same set of questions. So it really doesn't, for me in my industry, it doesn't really change because we have the same, I need the same information to provide the same service. It just might be on a bigger scale with the bigger fish because they might have got more like a larger suite of services. Or
so you might ask a few more sub questions or something.
Yeah, they just might have a higher volume of transactions, but ultimately my work is done the same way. There's not a lot of variations in the bookkeeping.
Rich's lip is twitching, so I can tell.
I think when you take on a bigger account, maybe size doesn't matter. Maybe it does. That is trying to get them to buy into your process. I think. Because there's a whole nother sales process after you close the sale. Now you got to sell them on your process.
You got to deliver. Yeah.
You got to sell them on your process so you can deliver your service to them, And sometimes with some of the bigger accounts, they are a little bit more resistant, Like I think the bigger the company, the more the bad habits. And those are kind of some of those things that you have to break through, when you're taking on a bigger account.
But we've made that mistake early on in the business where we took on a big client, and I knew what they were doing was not the most efficient and proper way to do it. And I let them drive the bus, and the relationship just ended with both parties being fairly dissatisfied.
Yes.
You know, like, because they weren't willing to conform. I wasn't willing to use my big girl voice. And so it just, but now I've learned from that. And now when I approach big fish, I tell them, these are the steps that we're going to use to get to solve this problem. This is what we have in place for this. This is your point of contact for this. Like, we have everything mapped out now. So it's a lot more clearly structured for them.
There's something we're batting around here. I think that's really, really interesting. And that is, I think that we assume that the big fish, by virtue of their size, has their shit together to a greater degree than we might,
100%.
or that anybody else does.
That's why I said they have more bad heads.
It's so often the opposite is true, that it's a dumpster fire over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the reason why that's important is that you can bring real value, but they don't always even know the value they want you to bring. I tell people this all the time. You can't forget that even though you're selling property restoration or bookkeeping or fill in the blank, an able, accomplished professional salesperson is always a consultant, right? You're always going to say, what you don't know, what you don't see is this over here. And this is how my product helps you see that more clearly. Now that's often an after the sale sort of a thing. It's especially true in a bookkeeping scenario. I might come to you with a problem that says my CPA yells at me and is about to fire me because I deliver him such shitty books. And
a shoebox full of receipts.
Right, whatever the thing is. But once you dive in, you realize that's actually not your problem. That is a problem, but that is not the problem. The problem is you're not able to see your business clearly enough to make accurate moves throughout the year because you aren't keeping books in a way that provides you access to real-time data. And so the degree to which my bookkeeper can help me see my business more clearly, tell me what KPIs are important, really act like a consultant is the real value I want. I don't even know that I want it. And once you provide it, that takes that takes you out of price, out of convenience, out of software, and makes you a trusted partner. And that's really where we want to get. You know, we want to be able to get there.
And that dumpster fire is true. I mean, we were so close. Our good friend Sam Friedman, we thought we were going to have a real good host there and talk about.
Wow!
Too soon?
Too soon? Too soon? Wow! Wow!
I mean,
he was gonna be our new.
Speaking of dumpster fires. Speaking of dumpster fires.
I mean, it's interesting that you're saying that about the people, about them craving the consulting and more information and more things, because this year at the QuickBooks conference, because we go every year, so we'll be going next week or at the end of next week. And there's 4 classes dedicated just to that, and how, like, as a bookkeeper and accountant, you know how to do the stuff, you know how to put it in, you know how to do the tax work, but your client doesn't know how to read whatever you're presenting them, even though your data is 100% correct and good and clean.
What does it matter? Yeah,
like, they don't know what client. They're like, oh, okay, thanks for this report. Okay, well, yeah. So they're teaching us accountants on how to articulate in a way where we can get our clients excited about their books and want to know how to utilize them.
Wait, who gets excited about their books?
Your wife does.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's right. Actually, Tom can attest to that. I think Carrie is really excited about the books. Go ahead.
I think the second problem with, kind of outlining her scenario is making, like, from a consulting point of view, it's like, yeah, you can point out it's like, how do they act on it? You know, like from our booking, like, we can give you every number, like, assume we're 100% accurate, 100% real time, like, and now you got all the information you need. How do you make actionable,
Right.
decisions off of that.
So my
Like, a lot of people don't know how to make actionable. Like, what do I do with this?
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know
So
what
true.
to do with this.
My
you know?
question to y'all would be, how do you, in my mind, that is a delineation between the actual jargon versus layman's terms.
I think what it is that if you can take the information and whatever, like if you're in a position of management, you take the information and you figure out, say, 3 variables that may affect this number, right? I have 3 variables that may affect this number, whether it's increasing working hours, lowering working hours, whatever your variables are with
KPIs.
it, and just
Yeah.
just implement a little bit of management on each one of those variables and see how it changes. Does it improve? Does it not improve? Like just kind of, and then some people don't know how to implement that level of management on each one of those numbers, because they can't identify the variables that may impact that number.
I like that.
I have to learn how to deliver that in a nice, fluffy way. Because
That's what I just said. That's what I just said.
I am very direct in
Yeah,
what I
I know.
find.
That's what I'm saying is jargon to
Yeah.
layman's terms.
I mean, I could deliver it in layman's terms. It's just very direct and to the point. And like,
so you need to
like
be
some of the
like
stuff is just
400 grit instead of 60 grit.
yeah, like in my mind, some of the
Sandpaper.
stuff is like common sense. And I'm like, how did you get this far into your business and not understand?
Because
Like,
anybody
certain
can
things.
start a business.
Clearly.
It takes any. How many people start a business?
So many.
A lot.
Most fail immediately.
Almost all of them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Almost
Right.
only 4% get over $1 million.
So
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but
You're good.
Just to get back to the big fish topic, like how do you feed your pipeline of big fish? Like how do you create that
Good question.
funnel, to go out there and like, all right, how do I find them and how do I keep them coming in? Like I'm always kind of curious how people figure out how people get leads, right, for their business, whatever size they may be.
Love that.
Yeah. Excellent question. So again, it's about relationships. So I think that we start off and we think, well, we're so addicted as Americans and maybe the world, I don't know, but we're addicted to like this, Reader's Digest book of tips and tricks or whatever, but it's actually extremely simple. You start with what you have. So if you have successful relationships that you currently have in your business, you simply go to them and say, I need more clients like you. Who do you know that's like you? And will you recommend them? And it's so incredibly important to ask that question because people that are your clients assume you are full. You don't need any more clients. You've grown as much as you want. They're not worried about you a drop. So one way is that you ask the people that you currently have for more clients. If you want to get an advanced way of that, then you find ways to reward them to do so. I think there are ways, and I'll challenge you, even a traditional, easy to understand conceptually bookkeeping concept of a company can do a lot to create community. Here's something that I'll challenge you with. Most people that don't own their own business don't realize that one of the biggest downsides of owning your own business is loneliness. It's lonely from the standpoint of I don't have a water cooler that I can gather around and just talk to other employees and bitch about the boss. I am the boss. Everyone, if you have employees, is probably not being incredibly honest with you to some degree because it's natural. There's a division between ownership and management and employees. And you just don't have a lot of opportunity to network with other people that are struggling with the things you're struggling with. How do I keep my marriage together? How do I spend more time with my kids? How do I do those two things, but also grow my business and reach my goals?
You just bring them all into work. Steph just brings all of them into work. Her child's here right now.
There you
her
go.
husband's here right now. Like
my dog's at home though right now.
Yeah. The only thing she doesn't have is her dog. But yeah.
So one of the things that you can do is you can begin to have events that really are marketing events for your company in which you're bringing all of your clients together in a way that celebrates the community of being one of your clients. and you can defray that cost or whatever. And you're introducing people that are going, look, this guy has a business about the same size as yours. This guy over here is also married to a crazy person, and I think you guys would get along. And you're sort of like,
I'm not sure you could do that during a networking event.
You're sort of networking your people together.
Maybe in Texas, but not here.
Listen, bookkeepers are like psychologists. They know really dark things about their clients, man. I mean, some things come out when you're really trying to get in these books where they're like, I have hated my wife for 17 years. I mean, that just pops out, right? While you're discussing profit, right? So
that $500 a week is for how do we categorize
therapy?
So my point is this. If you get serious about that in 2024, then being a client of yours starts to be about being a part of the community, and communities grow themselves. They attract other people. And so that putting that human face on the spreadsheet end of things is incredibly important. So that's part of it. But then also using all of your networking properly. So I don't know how many people belong to a BNI or other kind of networking group, but what we often do is there'll be lots of, whether it's a chamber or a BNI, they'll say, okay, you got 30 seconds, get up and do your spiel. And we often will use that 30 seconds or a minute to talk about ourselves when probably everybody in that room knows about what you do. Mm-hmm. What the better way to do is to stand up and say, I'm trying to get into the university and find somebody in this department of the university that can help me become a vendor, and who in the room knows someone that can help me get in. And now they're not trying to find a water damage for me or a bookkeeping client. They're trying to make a connection with somebody they know, and you'll be shocked at how many people say, oh, my sister-in-law works at the university. Let me give her a call. And she goes, oh, yeah, you're looking for Bobby. He works 3 doors down from me. Bobby's the plant manager over there and blah, blah, blah. And so you're using your connections to make other connections. You're literally looking for those introductions.
So in the web.
Yeah. So that's the one thing. And then third, I want to kind of go back to this nervousness issue because it kind of dovetails in. So interestingly enough, even though I've got imposter syndrome and I've spent 2 decades trying to work on my career in and out of direct businesses and stuff, I actually am, in some circles, I am the big fish. So I'm the president of a brand that has, a nationwide influence. So vendors are trying to get to me. People are trying to get to me. And what I notice is when they successfully navigate all of the blockages that I put up to keep them away from me, and I actually get a meeting on the books that is a sales or a marketing meeting, they treat me as though I am a one-dimensional thing. I am the president of a company, and I must be really put together and really professional and really buttoned up, and they've got to really act in a certain way. When the fact of the matter is, I didn't know how to read until I was 14 years old. I never went to a day of school ever until I was 15 years old. Barely graduated high school, went into the military because I couldn't get into college. I had the wildest growing up in the world, not even the United States. And so that makes the inside of my dome just a zoo, a carnival of different things going on. I'm the farthest thing from a typical president, even though I am sitting in a big fish role. The more successful people are asking questions that suss out that I am that sort of abnormal kind of a person, and then they play to that. I do that in reverse now because I sit in this position. It's so much easier for me to walk into a place and really ask a few key questions and determine and really get comfortable with the idea that whoever this person is that sits across from me, beautiful desk behind a big, thick mahogany door with a secretary out front and all that. Mm-hmm. They have all the insecurities I have. They have all the fears that I have. They don't know how they got there either. And if they are super comfortable and confident in that position, chances are they're a psychopath or a sociopath, and they're probably not somebody I want to do business with anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Fair.
But he
Fair.
would marry him.
I love that. But
I'll probably
you
marry him, let's
probably
be
you
honest.
probably married him. Yeah.
So
Go ahead, man behind the curtain.
I think as we're talking about selling to the big fish, I think and loading the pipeline is I think we as business owners, we as salespeople don't enjoy the lake that we're sitting on.
right.
Right.
I
And
want to go to the next. It's grass is always greener.
you understand? So I think
lake
you
is
gotta,
always bigger.
I think you have to enjoy the lake that you're on and just keep throwing stuff in there. It's called fishing. It's not called catching, right?
And that's kind of to Tom's point is you got to keep. Hey, I'm
Right.
dealing with senior care facility places. Why not continue and reach out to more senior care facility places? Because that was a big fish I brought in. Why not try to spread that net of those and get more of those, right? Like
Right.
those more big fish. Great, right? Yeah, exactly.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think the excitement is once we get it on the line or in the net, right?
Mhm.
And you were fishing for what this past weekend?
Muskie,
And did you catch one?
not one.
No, but you had a great time and you caught some
Fucking
fish.
blast. I had a
right?
blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
So that's what I'm talking about in
Yeah.
business. Enjoy that you're sitting out on a lake and you have the opportunity to cast a line, right? And if you can do that, then your pipeline stays full. It's when we start getting bogged down with, I got to do a CRM thing and I got to input this and
I
I've
caught a sturgeon. I
didn't.
didn't catch a muskie.
Right.
Damn it.
Right.
Well, no, I just caught a sturgeon. Right.
Yeah.
So we've reached the point in the show, right, where Tom, we talk about what we learned.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first? Raise your hand.
So it could be something that
Okay.
you learned about the topic, or one
Or
of the people,
somebody
or like
here.
a funny
It doesn't
nugget.
matter.
It doesn't have to be
That's
super serious.
It's just what you learned, Tom. Okay. So that's how we wrap up our shows because we got about 3 to 4 minutes left. So
Yeah.
I learned that Tom grew up without going to school until he was 15 years old. To not go to school or be in a single education class until you're 15 and now run a company is
There's hope for you.
I could do it.
I think what I learned is I think now that we're going to be getting into our new building in the next few months, that I think I'm going to try and put together a small business mental health roundup once a quarter where I'll invite my clients and I'll invite my networking partners and we'll just have some good old whiskey and some sandwiches and
Love that.
chit chat for 45 minutes instead of doing a traditional mixer. We'll gear it specifically around a check-in.
I love
I
that.
think that sounds like a really fun idea.
Business check-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Health
Yeah.
checkup. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Learned a lot. I'll name two things. Two things that I thought was really well is your approach to getting a meeting with somebody.
Mhm.
You know,
Big time.
not leading with a sale, but leading with questions. You know, to learn about the market. And then two, like you said, leveraging your existing network. You know, which is something she talked about. And it's not a concept that I've necessarily never heard. It's just more like I said before, is like how to apply it and act on it. And I think you kind of describing that kind of gives us a path to that, which is what she just described before.
Love that. Love that.
Nice.
Tom, what'd you learn?
First of all, I learned that Steph is a barely disguised kind of a salty B word, man. Like she's
Hey.
Wait, you haven't met her in person.
No.
So Tom, if you meet her in person, you'd be like, she is not disguised. She does not hide it at all. She is straight up, but she's only
love it.
5'2", so it's
Hey,
like,
but that
5'1".
all
but
right, 5'1". I
but that-
give you a little
Love
light. Jeez.
that B word is bookkeeper.
Yeah,
Bookkeeper,
right.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm an Enneagram 8. That's probably my favorite personality test is the Enneagram. I don't know why, but it's really I'm an 8. And so we really value directness, honesty, transparency. And so I share, she's like, hey, I guess I got to, try it and soften my approach because, it sounds like she sits down with a client and goes, you're broke,
Yeah.
so
Right.
how to lighten that up or whatever sounds like fun. But I tell you, more than I've really enjoyed the conversation. More than anything, it reminds me of how much intelligence and commitment and passion exists everywhere, just under the surface of the fatigue from the commute or the children or the business or the season or whatever. The fact that you guys are doing this program, reaching out to people, just shows me how much excellence is just still available in society right there if we're willing to connect it. And really our job, no matter what business we're in, is to be that connector. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what sales and marketing is. We're just connecting concepts and people to people, products to people, and just playing a matchmaker. And you guys really reminded me of how how fun that can be, and we don't need to take it seriously. And so I've really, really enjoyed it. It went so fast. So that's it.
Yeah.
Every time it goes fast, every time.
60% of the time, it works 100% of the time. Two quick things that I learned. One, Linda's watch stopped or something.
Hi, Mom.
Linda forgot about the timing. Hi, Mom.
She's
And number two, Tom lives by the rule: if you're good at something, keep doing it. That's why he's been married 3 times.
That's it.
I love that.
Hey, listen, we got to run. For all of us here at 2169, thanks for getting caught in the net with us here today on In the Know with Steph and Joe. Big shout out to Tom.
Thank you, Tom,
for being here from Restoration One. Absolutely appreciate you, brother. Yeah.
Can I ask Tom one more question?
Sure.
It would be stupid of me not to get your contact information.
I got it
And
for you,
maybe-
dude.
and
Dude,
would
I'll
it
get
be
it.
possible for me to ask you some questions out after?
I would absolutely love it. Absolutely
Okay.
love it.
All right.
I
Well,
got it for you.
all right. I'll talk to
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
All right.
I got
I'll
it.
talk
You
to you.
guys be safe. Have good.
Right.